Movies are my life. They're my passion, my escape. It's what I'm majoring in. It's basically just my entire life. So naturally, I go to the movies a lot. And every year, I always have a most anticipated film. Well, for 2025, my most anticipated film was James Gunn's Superman. And I have finally watched it after waiting for so many months. I watched it on July 11th, so on the advertised date, and I've given it a couple days just to sit with me. I went into it with very middle ground expectations. Personally, I wasn't sure if James Gunn could exactly pull this film off. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was my most anticipated of 2023 by far compared to the other movies. And even to this day, I find the movie very mixed, which I know is a very unpopular opinion. It has the most James Gunn problems out of any of his projects, at least to me. Clunky dialogue, very odd shifting of tones. Humor that sometimes tries too hard, but I absolutely love the first two Guardians movies, and I really liked Suicide Squad and Creature Commandos, so I had no idea how I was going to feel about Superman. So, what did I think? Superman delivers. It really did everything I wanted it to do. And from here on out, I'm going to be talking about spoilers, so just fair warning if you haven't seen the movie. I think one of the big burning questions that everyone had when this movie was coming out is, does David Cornsweet work as Superman? And the answer is yes. He is so good as Superman. And for me, I actually liked him more than Henry Cavill, which I kind of wasn't expecting to. He's so good at playing this version of Superman. He is the ultimate Boy Scout, much more than even Captain America. I mean, there's a part in this movie where he goes and saves a squirrel because a giant kaiju is about to step on him. And that's just so cool. I love that they're taking this very human approach to Superman where he wants to save as many people as he can, and I love that. The whole cast is pretty fantastic. I mean, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. The chemistry between Superman and Lois Lane is really good in this movie. You feel their love, but also their flaws because they're two very different people. And Nicholas Hoult, oh man, he played Lex Luthor really well. And you just hate Lex Luthor in this movie. He does so many despicable things in this movie. It was so satisfying to finally see his ass beat. I think it really works for this movie because you have Superman on one side who just cares so much about being a good person and saving people. And then you have Lex Luthor, who is just the ultimate hater of Superman. He is so envious and just evil, and I think that contrast between them really worked, even if it is a bit one-dimensional for Lex Luthor. I think for me, this movie could get away with so many things because it emulates so much of what a comic book is. There are a lot of storylines, the colors, the cartooniness, the multiple characters. That's why I think for me, it worked really well because there are a lot of characters in this movie. Rick Flag Sr., Crypto, Metamorpho, Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific. There are just so many characters, but because it feels like a comic book, I didn't expect them to develop each of them, but they're all fun and interesting in their own way, especially with their powers. I will say that Mr. Terrific is awesome in this movie. He definitely is the shining star out of the Justice Gang. Guy Gardner is pretty funny. I wish he was used more. Hawkgirl is the one that isn't really used that much. Crypto, I was pleasantly surprised with because from the trailers, I thought he was going to be a little bit overused as like this gag character, but they used him perfectly. Like, I didn't think they overused him, and he's just such a bad dog in this movie, but it's pretty funny. I was actually surprised. Ultraman was pretty well used in this movie. He's pretty much one-dimensional, but he works because he's an equal to Superman. I will say the engineer didn't really work for me just because her powers were a bit confusing. She doesn't add much to the story or to the movie, so she didn't really work for me. But I think this movie's biggest strength is the universe, this new DC universe that James Gunn has created that started in Creature Commandos. It just feels so alive. It feels like a character of its own because it's so well established and there's so many Easter eggs and references that you see throughout this whole movie. It just feels like a real world that you just stepped into. And I love that. I think that's so cool. It has a very distinct cartooniness and comic bookiness, and then also it's just so colorful. I will say the action was pretty forgettable, at least for me, especially in comparison to Zack Snyder's action in Man of Steel, which was just so well shot, and you feel every punch that they're giving. In this one, there were some action scenes that were pretty good, but I feel like others, the fight choreography and the spatial awareness and the way it was cut, it was a little weird or just forgettable. Like you don't feel that energy that I think you feel in Man of Steel. I will say the cinematography was a bit mixed for me too, just because sometimes the shots are way too close or they're too shaky, like when he's flying. But I will say that the moving shots were really good, where you start on one character and you kind of wrap around the room. There are these really long shots. And this is kind of the thing that I see with James Gunn. He uses this one cinematographer and they use a lot of movement and a lot of just whip pans. But I think it actually worked pretty well for this movie. I was worried that that style that I was so used to seeing in Guardians or Suicide Squad or Peacemaker, these more comedic projects, wouldn't work for Superman. But it actually worked pretty well for the most part. But there were just some things I didn't love. And even though this movie can get away with so many wacky and weird things, sometimes I think some of the things get a little too silly. Like there's this scene where Metamorpho is fighting a bunch of these Lex Luthor robots and he shoots acid out of his body, which I think is really cool. But then he just becomes this floating head that just kind of flies off. Like that's a little silly. And then the way they kind of fight the kaiju, they put oven mitts on its hands or they just poke its eye. Like it's a little silly. And sometimes it didn't really work for me. The humor I was really worried about. I was worried that the tone would shift all over the place. And for me, it actually didn't take me out of the movie too much. And this one, the humor did hit more. Sometimes the humor did fall a little flat and it felt a bit inappropriate at times. But for the most part, I did think that they did a good job with not making this overly funny or taking you out of the moment. The effects overall were pretty good. I was surprised with the amount of just wackiness in this movie. There are some points where it does look weak, or you can definitely tell it's green screen, but it was pretty good. I will give them that. They also make some major changes in Superman's origins in this movie. Superman is who he is in this movie because of this message that his parents leave him with that tells him that he's sent to Earth to help the people, to be a good person, but the message was damaged on the way to Earth. And then the engineer deciphers that last half and it tells him that he was meant to rule Earth, which is a major change. But I think it actually worked well in the movie because it gave Superman a reason to question his beliefs and what he's doing on Earth. And I think that worked really well, especially with his parents later on, his adopted parents. And his dad gives him the talk that, you know, your parents give you the tools to do these things, but it's what you do with them that defines who you are. Like that, I think that was a really good message. I think the problem is there were just so many plot lines in this movie, his beliefs and him questioning it, and then scenes with his parents, I think needed to be expanded on more. Like I wanted more of that because the movie isn't very long. It's a little over 2 hours. And for a movie of this caliber, while it's tackling this many plot points, it definitely needs more room to breathe, or you need to take out some plot lines in order to expand and dive into other things more. Like I wanted more Clark Kent in this movie. I wanted more emotional scenes with Superman because that is one of the highlights of this movie. Overall, the movie was good. It was super fun. It was extremely rewatchable. Mind you, there was a lot of flaws in it, but I think it's definitely worth watching. And I had a lot of fun with this movie. It definitely did not disappoint. I will say that I did like Man of Steel more than this, even though it doesn't have the kind of human, hopeful side that I think this Superman movie does really well at. I think that Man of Steel does explore the characters so much better, and the cinematography, the score, and then the action is a lot better. But I appreciate that there are two very different Superman movies. People can watch and choose which kind of version they like. So I think that's really cool. But I will say that Man of Steel is better than this movie. I think it's worth a watch for everyone to make up their own mind on it, because for me it was incredibly rewatchable, incredibly fun, and just makes Superman feel so human and the embodiment of hope. Superman really does deliver.